So we're in 9-3 now. And in 9-3, we're going to deal with some sales transactions. Salesperson has a name, the sales amount, there's a commission, there's a rate, there are attributes associated with this class. So at this point, I don't have as much code as I would like in here. Let's go and I'm going to create a class down below. And this class down below will be what we're going to instantiate up here in our sales transaction demo. I'm going to come down below and I'm going to create this class called sales transaction. And sales transaction is going to have a rate, which is read-only, you can't change it. It's got a double, which is sales amount, and a double, which is commission. They're both public. And within it, we'll have the constructor, and that's a public, and it's named the same as class, sales transaction. We have to pass it a name, sales amount, and a rate. And that will create an instance of the transaction and set those values. Now, from there, I can, if I wanted to, just pass it one value, just the name, or the name and the sales amount. So I'm not limited to just all three. Depends on what I've got. And come down, if you see here, we have the second string name. I've got the name, but I don't have the other two. We said, all right, the instance of this, we've got name, and then we've got two default values, 0 and 0. On this one, you got name and sales amount with the default value of 0. So that's when we go through to construct. If I don't have everything I need, I don't have some of it, we're setting default values just like we did back in chapter 8. So when it comes to these attributes, name, we've got get and set. Sales amount, you've got get and set. Commission, we've got to get. So these get and sets, it gets tricky knowing when to do get and when to do set. And it's over time, it's something that you'll get used to. And it depends on what you have to do with that value and how that value is created. So now, a little further down, we've got public static, sales transaction, operator plus. So on this, we're going to have our sales transaction, and that's the class that we've got. Then we need an operator plus sales transaction, which will S1, sales transaction, which is 2, and that will perform that calculation and create an instance of the transaction with the total. Now, we'll dig into this a little bit further in a little bit. So when it comes to the main, so what are we doing in the main? In the main, we want to create an instance of that class. We've created 3 instances of sales transaction. One for Abbott, one for Bender, and one for Carter. I had 3 pieces of information, 2 and only 1. And then here I can go and come up with the total for sales transaction. Now, we've got the display function. That's down here. Got a display function, and what is it that I want to have happen in the display function? Well, I need to pass it sales transaction. sales transaction will go to display, and then I'm going to reference it in this as S. Pointer, I should say, passing it by reference to S. So it'll be S.name, S.sales amount, and I can access everything about sales transaction with just using S. And you'll see when I run it what that does. I'll do one more, which will be display total. And display total, if I invoke it, I pass it sales transaction, it's going to refer to it inside as S. So it says S.sales amount, uses the toString function to format that as currency. Now, display total takes total. Sales transaction total equals total of all three of those transactions. Now, S1 is a sales transaction. S2 is a sales transaction. So if I get that, when I go to get sales transaction, I come down to my operator right here. S1, S2, sales transaction total. Go ahead and run and see what we got. Abbott had sales totaling 2,000. Commission rate is 2. Commission value is 400. So that is our display. Okay. We've also got display total. And that's down here. Total sales, 6,000. So this can get very convoluted, and it takes a lot of keeping track of, because we're building a lot of code like code we've already had to a degree, but we didn't have to deal with this get and set. And we haven't had to deal with that kind of thing up to this point. Now we are. So it could be an implicit get and set, or it could be an explicit get and set like we've got here. And we have to think of much like how we did overloading before. Depending on how many values I have to be ready to receive 1, 2, or 3 values in the constructor when I actually create that instance of the sales transaction. Okay. We still got a bunch more. What do we got? Another 13 more to go. So we've got a lot of time to do this over and over again to get used to it. So let's go see how it should go. It's looking for me to define the class. I did define it. That's happy. All right. So I'll see you in the next one.